Good morning. This time I got it right. And thank you for staying with Metropol TV. This is Business AM and it's time for review topics. Now, before the break, I had told you we'll be joined by a very interesting guest. He's a writer and he's written very many books that are yet to be published, but there's one that we are here with and it's called Influence, The Secret of Selling. The gentleman is Laban T. Mbololo. And just before the break, I'd mentioned that he'll be with us in studio. He's already in studio. And before we came on air, we were having a very simple conversation with him, but very interesting. And one of the people that vouched for this book, if you can see right here, is Dr. Chris Kirubi, who's director, Centum Investment, billionaire businessman. We have very few in the country, entrepreneur and industrialist. And I just want to read what he says. As someone who has been actively engaged in sales in diverse forms my entire life, I can pick out valuable lessons in this book. Influence, The Secret of Selling, is a practical guide into building customer engagement and rapport, both critical tools for ensuring a successful sale and life in selling. Laban, thank you. I'd like us to start from here. How did this book pick up Dr. Chris Kirubi's interest? Or rather, why?
Dr. Chris Kirubi has been a businessman in this country for many years, and he appreciates the journey of sales. He has been a salesman himself, and that is why I thought somebody who has a sales background will appreciate some of the tenets and nuggets that we want to put forward and help people in their sales careers, as well as business people.
Okay. Now, I know the introduction I've done cannot do justice to the incredible writer and gentleman that you are. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Laban Bololo. I am a native of Taita Taveta district, Voi division, Bololo, Ngolia location, in a sub-location called Lome. I attended early school in Aga Khan Nursery and Primary School, and later Ndome Primary. After that, I joined high school, Kenyatta High School, in 1988.
Okay.
And attended university at Kenyatta University.
But I'm interested, along the way, where did the love for writing and writing this particular kind of books stem?
Okay. Early in my career, I left for the US. And I worked with Apartment Movers of America in a business development and sales position. I later relocated to the UK in 2003, and also was in another sales and business development role. And this is where, because of my experience and what I've been able to see in different markets, I decided to put a manual that will aid salespeople. When you check, there's something which, like for example, a lot of times, there's people don't know how to follow the money.
Yes.
So you find that very intellectual people and people who have been to school, they have low income skills, as opposed to untalented and unintellectual people who have very high money skills. So money basically follows attention.
And that's the conversation we were having when we were on the break.
Yes.
Money follows attention.
Yes.
And you give a very practical and good example. And just for the sake of the viewer who was not with us, I'd like you to repeat that example so that they can get the visual of how money follows attention.
Yes. So money flows where there's attention flow. Even if you have to create stunts. And I'll give you a good example. The example I gave you was of Virgin Brides. This is one of the 450 empires of business that Sir Richard Branson runs. And in this particular one, he had to, it is one of the few times that he has been seen, captured on tape, with a clean shaven beard and in a wedding suit, in a wedding dress, in a full wedding attire, and even walking down the aisle.
Just a minute. I don't know if my director, Richie, could you get us a picture, that picture of Richard Branson in a clean-shaven beard and a wedding dress maybe on our screen as we continue this conversation so that while you say the viewer can get a picture?
Yes, and as a result, what happened is this created a lot of attention. And, you know, there was a flow of money where the attention was. So Influence, the secret of selling, has distilled these nuggets into form of a book.
Now, I'm glad that we've now narrowed it down to the book. Influence, the secret of selling. Tell us more about this book.
Influence, the secret of selling is a book which is a manual which introduces business people and salespeople on how to effectively carry out the expansion of their business. Number one, what I would like to talk to is the power of attraction. Sales is not about selling products. It is not about pushing a product. It is about nurturing a relationship. It is about building a rapport. When you do this, and in the process, you end up interacting with your customer, and you know, you find out about their needs and wants. So that is what the attraction bit of it is.
Okay.
You attract them, and this can be done. There's an elaborate process how this is done.
Okay.
Number one is by just, you know, like I said, nurturing the relationship and building a rapport. That's number one. Number two, it is about probes. The way you probe a customer by talking and asking them questions. When you ask customers questions, you're bound to uncover other opportunities. For example, if a client is married, that tells you there's an opportunity for a spouse and children.
Yes.
And then there is number three, there's a presentation. This is where now you present the features, the advantages, the benefits of the product, yeah, which a lot of the people in the traditional sales don't do that. They hasten the process and they close long and hard, and all the benefits of a beneficial relationship lost forever.
Great.
And then the last step is managing the resistance and getting commitment and ending up with a close.
I'd like to bring this conversation to the Kenyan context. You've worked abroad, you know the selling habits abroad and why those businesses thrive and become international and global businesses very fast. But in Kenya, what are some of our selling habits that we need to improve on?
Number one, most of the salespeople don't appear to be having a sales plan. So as a result of that, they embark on cold calling. There's nothing wrong with cold calling, but what we are not told about cold calling is the emotional toll that you go about. You can imagine being rejected 9 out of 10 times. And then again, it is waste of company materials and resources, because there are brochures which have been printed. There's transport cost, and even their salesperson's efforts. So these are some of the methods which the modern, the winners are not using.
What methods are the winners using?
The winners are using, like the first thing that I described, that's a marriage. That's a marriage model.
Okay.
It's a marriage or relationship model that I described. Then the second one that the winners are using, they're using consultative selling or customer intimacy. This is where you get to know your customer. A lot of business and salespeople, they concentrate on 80% of the people who are unlikely to buy from them. The winners concentrate on the 20%. For example, if you walked into a restaurant and you just read the name of a waiter, see how he responds. He's very responsive. So you can imagine, if you know 20% of your clients very well, things happen like they are featured on the newspaper, you're the first one to call them. Or you can stick it on the notice board of your office. If that doesn't violate the policy of the office, or I mean of the company. So these are some of the methods which, our people should embark on. Again, once you concentrate on the 20%, you find that the 20% will actually give you 80% of your income from the Pareto rule. Another thing is that you can also use another method which is called partnering for profits. This is where when you get a customer and they are on board, it doesn't end there. The fact that the customer has come there, it means that they can go elsewhere.
Okay.
So that is the time to engage them. So you need to have like a 90 days onboarding cycle where, now you're able to relate with the customer very well. Within those 90 days, everything will be cast on stone.
Okay.
And this will be now your customers, and they'll also be able to advocate for you. That's why now we call it partnering for profits, because they'll be advocating for other clients for you.
Okay.
So these are some of the methods which our people need to embark on in order to improve on their sales.
Now, you say in the beginning of the conversation, money follows attention. And we want to talk to the viewer at home, because some of them, sometimes they're thinking, this is my business, this is my brand. How do I create attention? And the good kind of attention around it that will bring money. Because when Richard Branson did his stunt, he knew it will bring attention that will translate into money. So for the viewer at home who's watching, let's start with personal branding. How do you create attention for personal brand to attract money flow? And then now we can go to the business.
For the salespeople, number one and very key is how you present yourself. Within the first 10 seconds of meeting anyone, they have decided 10 things about you. So it is fair that it be on the right vein. So that means that your dressing, you have to look sharp. You have to, and I like this saying it's not a saying, it's a quote by Zig Ziglar, which says, you cannot climb the ladder of success dressed in a costume of failure.
You cannot climb the ladder of success dressed
in the costume of failure. Yes.
There's also another one that says, dress how you like to be addressed. Exactly.
So that is where it stems from, because it tends of tries to give you leverage over other people, because the client is able now to trust you by the way you look.
But that's very practical, because every time I am in a suit, people treat me in a way important manner than I actually am. When I'm in a suit, people call me Mrs. Ondiro. And then when I'm dressed in other clothes, they're just like Miss Ondiro. So they attach some form of importance. The tone changes, and even the deals that are put on the table are very different.
Yes, and the reason is very simple, because people want to deal with people who look successful.
Okay.
Work today in a law firm, you will not be able to tell the difference between a senior lawyer and a pupil.
Okay.
All of them are dressed in suits. So even for salespeople, look at how bankers and lawyers, these are people who are paid to give advice and counsel. So we need to step up that. Yes.
Okay, now, in relation to the business, very briefly.
In relation to the businesses, there is one thing that they need to do, which is the power of differentiation. A lot of businesses are doing the same things, and they're doing it. This sameness is just because of copying. You're copying and embracing what people are doing without putting much thought into it. What you need to do, and most of these businesses and salespeople, is to differentiate themselves. That's where the solution lies. And by differentiating, I mean this is a promotional method which now gives you a strong presence and dominance, and gives you leverage over other businesses and salespeople.
Great. Now, time flies so fast. I feel like we've just scratched the surface, but my director is saying time's up. But before we let you go, from the insights that you've shared, this is like a guidebook for every brand and business. So where can get the book? Where can they get the book? How can they get the book? And if you're comfortable sharing, at what price?
The book retails for 1,600 Kenya shillings and is available on Barnes & Noble. It's also available on Amazon. And locally it's available at Pioneer Bookshop on Mamangina Street.
I guess that's your camera. Richard, that camera 3 is his camera. 30 seconds. Why should someone get this book? 30 seconds.
Influencer's Secret of Selling is a book that gives you the nuggets of how to move from good to great. It has been distilled with great advice and good examples, which is practical and will definitely change your life and your business.
Laban, thank you for making time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take your seat, gentlemen. Okay, there you have it. Laban Bololo, who's a writer, and he's been sharing insights. And I think my takeaway from this conversation is the quote he's mentioned by Zig Ziglar. He says, "You cannot climb the ladder of success dressed in the costume of failure." Our guest had to walk out. He has a meeting he has to rush to. But right about now, Richie, we go for a break and we'll see you on the other side. TV. This is Business AM, the final segment, and I'm joined in studio by Frederick Wahome, who's the Vice Chairman, Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensics Association. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're liking your tea or is it coffee?
It's tea.
I hope it's easing the burden of traffic that you've had to go through this morning.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, and I like that you're here and we can have this conversation on cybersecurity because it's a very, very important conversation. And a report that was done by my colleague yesterday shows that many managers have zero or very little information in relation to cybersecurity. And this exposes so many businesses and organizations to cyber risk, costing them millions and sometimes billions of shillings. So to start this conversation, let's start by contextualizing what is cybersecurity.
Thank you for having me. As an association and also as a professional, we are making it to provide more information and awareness to the public because as the technology grows, there are risks that comes in.
Yes.
So it's important first to understand the difference between cybersecurity and cybercrime.
Yes.
When you come to cybersecurity, it is the whole aspect of securing the cyberspace, which includes the technology, the people, the processes, and all that. But now when you come to the cybercrime, this is now the criminal activity, which is perpetrated by criminals who are tech savvy. Some others knows just how to use tools and to click here and there. And this is a problem now that as a country we are adopting technology at a very high rate. So contextualizing now cybersecurity in the context of our country, we have a serious problem. And our first issue is we have a lack of legal structures and framework in place. Remember, we already have Cybercrime and Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act, which was signed by the President last year. But unfortunately, the bloggers went to the court. They said that they are going, the act criminalizes what they do.
Yeah, infringes their freedom.
Infringes, yeah. We had an engagement with the Judges and Magistrate Association. And the issue that came out is judges and magistrate, they somehow lack information on these issues. And that is why some of the decisions that have been taken, for instance, in suspending some of those clauses, definitely it comes now to even affect the same magistrate.
Okay.
When you come now to the business side, And the issue of the cyber risk. We have three categories of people, three categories of areas that is affected by the cyber crime. The first one is the government. Then we have the public, that is the people and the citizen. And then we have the corporate, the organization.
Yeah, and we'll touch on the corporate later on, but now I want to start with the people. And you mentioned that we live in the digital age, which we do, and information is always flowing online. You know, you take a picture on Instagram, hashtag living my best life, you upload your location, you show people your daily routines and your patterns, but all that information, you're giving it to someone online who doesn't have your best interest at heart. So when you put out your information, particularly private, and even sometimes information that you don't think is private online, what kind of cyber risk does that expose you to?
There are so many risks as far as the individuals are concerned. There are some that affect them when they use their computers, like viruses, malwares, trojans, and such stuff, which definitely will steal your information, share your passwords and all that. But now when you come on the online space, there's a serious problem because this is an area that is not even structured at all. We are talking about internet. And anyone with an access to the internet, maybe through a mobile phone or even through a computer, can be able to access this online space. And what happens is that one of the issue that is bothering us is the issue of cyberbullying. Because someone will go online, create a fake profile using anonymous emails, and then they take your picture, they impersonate you, and then they start borrowing money online. That is going to affect you as an individual. And you see, sometimes you cannot call people telling them that you are not the one.
Yes.
And already sometimes the damage has already been done.
Particularly to a brand.
Exactly, to a brand, exactly. And what happens is that the government is struggling, but at the end of it, it is more of a collaborative effort for us to be able to fight this thing. Because it requires the government, it requires the law enforcement, it requires associations, it requires experts and professionals, and also the people. Like now what we have been doing through the association, we've been creating awareness to people. We go to public places. Last year we were at Sarit Center. We talked to people. The issues of uploading pictures, your children, your private life, and someone is going to profile you. They are going to steal your identity. And now when they steal your identity, they replicate it online. And they can be able even to steal more, including money, your private information and such stuff.
And you know, when we put a lot of our information out there, particularly with the internet right now, they say privacy is dead, right? And first and foremost, you lose your privacy by putting out your information out there, right? But with digital apps, before, like if you download an app, it tells you allow access. For this app to operate, allow it to access your pictures, your location, and stuff like that. And you're slowly selling off your privacy just to be able to use this app. Talk to us about that.
The challenge that we have is that businesses are pushing their operations online. And one way and channel of doing that is through mobile apps. Because nowadays it's a bit easier and cheaper to hire someone to develop an app. But the challenge comes that most of the developers, they don't build security into the apps. They just build the normal business operations of the app. And you see, there is this demand, let the app run, let it start, you know, streaming avenue. And what happens, you miss as a developer, you miss to put stringent measures to make sure that the app cannot be misused. Nowadays, it's easier. Go online, search for a bank called XYZ app, download the app, reverse engineer that app, and then modify the code. Put some scripts there that when someone uses the app, it's going to steal their credentials, install keyloggers on their phones, and upload it back online. So when someone searches, the browser will present them the rogue app, and they install in a mobile phone. How are people supposed to know that this is the legitimate app, this is the illegitimate app? And I think that is where the government comes in to create structures and legal framework so that they can be able to protect the consumer and as well as the app providers, that is the institutions. They should be able to carry out public awareness campaigns so that someone can be able to know which is our legitimate app online.
And I like the fact that you've brought about banks.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Bright Gameli, maybe you might know him because
Yes,
you're in
yes,
the
yes.
same space.
Yes.
He says banks, particularly banks and financial institutions, they've failed to secure themselves. And that's why we are seeing cases of banks being robbed millions and millions of their money. We know of banks that people have been taken to court because some of the money was stolen. Dr. Bright says on a daily basis, banks lose 50 million shillings to hackers. How does this happen? How do they override the security bit just to get the app working?
First, as far as the banking is concerned, there is a serious issue to do with cyber risk. Why? Because banks stores money. So it becomes a very easy victim to someone who wants to steal money. And the first problem that we have a shortfall in terms of professionals who are qualified to protect the organizations. Like now we are talking of less than 10,000 professionals against 40 million people in Kenya. And you expect that hiring some of these best brains and minds to protect, it's very expensive for them. Actually, most of them, when they get skills, they go outside. They are hired outside the country. And when you come now to the banking, it just takes so much to protect the bank because the banks are going to do whatever it takes to protect the systems and to protect the money and all that. But the challenge comes when you introduce someone like a third-party provider. For instance, you find that they hire different professionals, someone to provide app services for them. So you'll get that the bank is secure, but the app is provided by a third party, even a mail server. And you see, as an attacker, you just need to get one loophole and you are able to get into the bank. So it is more of also a collaborative effort that the banking should be able to rethink their strategies. Maybe they can have their own internal departments that have innovations that push most of these products, or they are able to sit down with their third-party providers and tell them to protect them against the risks. Because sometimes they protect themselves, but now a risk comes through a third-party provider. So now, what can you do about that?
And that's where I want us to start, particularly with individuals.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to the banks.
Yeah.
You take pictures on your phone, you think you have your password,
Yes.
you save your information on your phone,
Yes.
on your laptop,
Yes.
and because you've saved and you have a password that is long from here to Timbuktu,
Yes.
you think you're safe,
Yes.
but you're not. So how do you protect yourself as an individual, particularly your information?
Yeah. So we do a lot of user awareness to corporate organizations. And when you do that, we carry out phishing attacks just to try to see if we send them some links if they are going to click and open. And there are so many ways that you can lose information, including in a corporate environment. For instance, people share passwords. Like, you know, you want a simple password for your computer and such
Yes.
things. When you go to coffee shops, the first thing you ask for is the
Free Wi-Fi.
free Wi-Fi. How sure are you that you are connected to their legitimate, you know, Wi-Fi equipment?
Yes.
Because I can come there, sit down with my laptop, activate a Wi-Fi called XYZ Wi-Fi, put the same password that they have, do some technical bits, and then you connect to my Wi-Fi. I'm going to do something called sniffing. I'll sniff whatever you are browsing online. I'll capture your password, but you'll not know because it is not active. I'm not like in your machine. I'm just tapping into your connection.
Yeah.
People go to cyber cafe. We have seen in Nairobi, some cyber cafe, they have keyloggers.
Yes.
A keylogger is an application you install in your computer or your phone. Then whatever you type, I'm able to access that information. We have seen that in some of our cyber cafe.
Yeah.
So you log in, you go to YouTube, you go to Facebook, you go to all these websites without knowing that someone is recording whatever you are doing. Then after that, they take that information, go log in, change password, kick you out, you know, create your identity and do some serious stuff.
Yeah.
So as far as we are concerned as individuals, we have seen this culture of Kenyans, they don't care. As long as, you know, they don't lose money, they don't care. But when you lose the reputation, it will come a time when cleaning up that online will be very expensive for you. So we urge people to just be, you know, be a bit careful. Don't click on any links. Don't go visiting any websites, because you don't know whatever is on the background that is going to infect your computer and your phone.
A friend of mine once told me that these promotions that come on your phone and tell you, spin the wheel, you will win an iPhone. That's how viruses and people get hacked.
Yes, very true. There's something called watering hole. When cows want to drink water, probably there's a hole that has water. So they gather there and drink water. So what happens with attackers? They target most of the websites that many people visit. For instance, you'll find a corporate environment, they visit a betting website. So what they do, they compromise that website. They put something on the background such that when you visit the website, either through your phone or through your computer, something is going to be downloaded. They bring some nice links, some nice advertisement. But when you click, something is already happening on the background, and it's going to be installed and steal your information and all that.
Finally, let's talk about institutions, particularly banks, because they're the one who are hemorrhaging at a very alarming rate. How do they ensure they're safe in the cyberspace?
One thing, we are members of Kenya's Computer Emergency Response Team, which is hosted by the Communications Authority, and the banking are members of the same. One thing that the banks need to do, they need to push so that they have a platform to share risk information. Because like last year, one of the organizations was affected, and they lost some money. Then a month or 2 months down the line, the same methodology of attack was affected another bank, and they lost almost the same.
The loophole wasn't closed.
Exactly, it was not closed, and the same attackers, the same tools, they went and did the same on another bank. What if they had a platform to share some of this information, even if not very specific? The other banks, the other circles could already have put some mitigation measures, and also creating capacity. Let us have cybersecurity department in banks, because most banks, they only have IT departments without cybersecurity departments, and that is through how they are able to push capacity internally and also collaborate with other players in the industry. Yes. 30
seconds. That's your camera. How should an institution or an individual ensure that while they're online, they remain safe?
So what you need to do, you need to be very careful. Don't go clicking on any link online, because whatever you see with your eyes is not what will be running on the background. When you go to cyber cafes, know that someone may be watching you and you don't know. So what you need to do, learn some basics. How can you check on that computer that something rogue is running in the machine? And above all, know how to report some of these things. If you lose access to your passwords, know that someone is going to use your password to go and create an attack, and you know you are going to be the victim. So when you lose your passwords, when you lose all this, make sure that you report to the police at the earliest time possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for making time, and thank you for giving us those insights. We really value them, and we hope you can come back and we can have a more in-depth conversation on cyber risk and cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Those who love freebies, free Wi-Fi is not free. As they say, freedom is not free. Be very careful before you go clicking on anything. Whatever is happening on the surface is not exactly what's happening on the background. We've been here with you since 7 a.m., bringing you up to speed with what's trending in the business market, giving you stories and topics that are shaping the business landscape today. And it's 9 a.m. and every good thing has to come to a close. On behalf of everyone that made it a success, my director, Richie, super producer, Tabitha, and the studio technical operators, Titei, Sharon, and Cindy, we'd like to say thank you for watching Metropol TV. We'll see you again tomorrow. My name is Andiro Ganga, and I'm in business. Case closed.